Welcome back to Permanent Underclass. This is episode 2 of our attempt to keep you up to date on all the latest and craziest and scary updates with AI and automation. I am Evan reporting from Pittsburgh, and I'm here with a very special guest, a special co-host this week because Clyde couldn't make it. I am here with Esteban, who is calling in from Mexico, and Esteban was the CMO of Leonardo AI, which he took from 0 to 1 million subscribers before they were acquired by Canva in 2024. That was almost 2 years ago now when they were acquired. And now here we are 2 years later. Esteban, I know him as Midas, a great friend of mine online. Midas, you were way ahead of the game. I got to admit, you were onto the AI stuff before even I was. Can you kind of walk us through what was that early journey like for when you got into this stuff to begin with?
Yeah, so I started dabbling into AI in, I would say, 19, before like GPT-3 and all that stuff. I was doing some kind of, analyzing headlines from news, from viral posts using something called engrams, which basically it's like you're trying to find how many times a word or a combination of words are being repeated over a data set. So that's what I was doing back in the days because I used to run a viral page. So I wanted to know what people were, clicking, what they wanted to know about. And around 2020, I learned about GPT-3. I tried to get access to it and it was a failure. It took me 1 year to get access to the beta because it was only for researchers and academics and all that kind of people.
And you were doing this just because you were managing like a community page or like a very viral page on another social media platform, and you were like, this would be a cool tool to use.
Yeah, I always love dealing with language. It's kind of like my background, my family are in linguistics and philosophy and all of that stuff. And I found it interesting when I saw GPT-3 was like, what the hell is this? Like you can generate more text based on this. And I wanted to use it for copywriting because my background is mostly marketing and I wanted to test it out. So I tried for a whole year. I didn't get access. And then I found another AI called Gary AI based on Gary Halbert. And they were using the API of GPT-3. And so I used that AI to generate an email for, what's his name? Greg Brockman, who is the president of OpenAI. And the subject line, it was something like GPT-3, the Maserati of copywriting. And I don't know, like he kind of liked it because I provided like a small, description of what I wanted to use it for. And at the end, I was like, hey, I created this with another AI based on your AI. And I want to research like what's the possibilities of these for copywriting and advertising and all of that. And like an hour later, I received my invitation email to the Slack. Back then, they didn't have a Discord. It was a Slack with less than 10,000 people using GPT. And man, I love it. I started doing a lot of stuff with like copywriting, putting, all the data that I had for creating headlines and copy and whatever. And I also use it for rap music. It was fun. And I kind of start using it on my day-to-day, just experimenting with it. And then, 2022 happened. ChatGPT just launched and everybody just got into it. And
so you were ahead of even like that main rollout of GPT, like where everybody kind of had access to it. You were using it well in advance of that.
Yeah, like a whole year before, year and a half.
That's crazy. And what were those early models like compared to even like a free model that you can access today?
Well, first, they didn't have the model that's called Instruct, which is the one that we start using later, that you just put instructions and it just follows that. Back then, we had the base model on DaVinci, and it was kind of like an auto, how you say it, it was just creating text. So you will just like hit Command Enter, and it would just, sometimes it will create like a conversation, sometimes it will deviate a lot. So you had to use a lot of what was called, it's called one shot or multi shots examples, right? You wanted to have I don't know, like 10 different headlines in order for the model to understand what you were trying to do. And yeah, that's pretty much what I was using it for, to creating a lot of copy, a lot of emails, a lot of marketing stuff. And the difference with the newest models is it's light years away from what we used to have. Because I would say it's more like whenever you start kind of like programming, like coding at the beginning, and you start learning all the if, the whiles, the fors, all this kind of stuff in the coding language. But on GPT, you didn't know anything at that moment, so you will have to create sometimes like put user column and then do some text and then like assistant column, and it will respond to you, and then you will start feeling like it was kind of like chat GPT. But it was very it was an amazing time because it was like an alien technology. You didn't know what was the possibilities of it, but you could see that it was very different from what we were doing before. So I started checking it out. And then when ChatGPT appeared, the difference from the base models and the ChatGPT model was quite different because
Yeah.
you could actually have some kind of context and you could just continue with a chat. And I think that was the biggest game changer for everybody else. Because before you will have to set the temperature, you will have to set like how many tokens you wanted that to create.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of that stuff's been like abstracted away, right? Like
Yeah,
nowadays, even just like the base model of GPTs, like you just kind of ask it a question, like, how do I make a pizza dough? Like, what's a pizza dough recipe? And it just you're not even worried about context or tokens or the variance. And that's interesting because I think maybe what you went through 4 years ago now, where you saw GPT and you were like, holy shit, this is what a leap in tech. I was just that was my first introduction to it. And so for me, I remember like Vitalik Buterin had called it like parlor tricks. I don't know if you remember this like famous kind of tweet he had back then,
no,
because it could do things that were, what was the image one back then that you had to plug into Discord to use? Mid Journey.
Mid Journey, yeah.
Yeah. And it was like these are interesting novel things, but nobody really had an idea yet of like how to plug it into a workflow. It worked very well and was like a nice, like I said, party trick almost. But nowadays, I mean, if you look in the year 2026, just the amount of stuff that we've done like in the last month with an open claw instance and plugging it in and giving it API keys to more things than we probably should, it's replacing so much work, so many hours spent that, you would be doing sort of tedious tasks. And I just think this is like, it's got to be night and day compared to when you started working on this stuff.
I mean, you probably remember back when ChatGPT launched, you will have a context window 4,000 tokens, and it was pretty much useless for big tasks. And big tasks, what do I mean with that? If you wanted to create like those sales letters for direct marketing that are like 30 pages long, well, you couldn't do that unless you just like went back to the context, the previous context, the chats, and just summarize it and be like, hey, remember that we were talking about all of this, and it would just
Right,
forget everything at the
right.
middle of the sales letter, and it was like, what the fuck is sorry, what the hell is this?
Whenever you say, you could say the F word on this channel, it's fine. Whenever you say tokens, can you like describe what you mean by that? Because that term is definitely still thrown around a lot. And I know like people say like, oh, the context window of this new model is 4 million or 100 million or whatever. Like, what does that mean when you say tokens?
Yeah, you can, if we take it from the AI and tech space and put it more into like the linguistic space, it's similar to syllables, right? So it's not exactly the same. Let me just make this clear. But if you're trying to find the next word, what a token does is that it kind of sections the words. Sometimes it's a whole word, sometimes it's a syllable, sometimes it's like a couple of words put together. So yeah, to make it easier for the audience, it's more like having like syllables in a
Yeah,
way. Yeah.
yeah, that makes
So how
sense. So
many
sometimes it's
syllables
a
are you using? Sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's yeah, a letter. it will depend. Like one of the problems that we had back in the days is that the tokenizer, which is the, like the software or the library or whatever, it encodes the text into all these vectors and then separates them into tokens. Like if you had languages in other languages other than English, then your token usage will be twice as that. Because then you didn't have like in Spanish we have accents in the A, in the E, I, O, U, and then you have like in German you also have the umlaut, the 2
The
points,
two dots.
the
Yeah.
2 dots, yeah, on the U. So all of those will be, instead of taking like a syllable, it will take that letter. So the more strange the language was to the data set they had trained GPT on, it will then, like have to use more of that, more syllables, more tokens. So it also made it harder for people outside of the US or the English language sphere to actually use all of this, because then you had like 2,000 tokens, which will be around, I don't know, like 4,000 syllables, so, or 4,000 words. It will all
Yeah.
depend.
And that's the entire context window. Like you're only going to
Yeah.
get 4,000 syllables in, and then it just can't compute anymore.
Yeah. Today we have 1 million context windows.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's,
And it's crazy. It's crazy to think like 1 million you think is so much, and then you get cooking on a project with
yeah.
with OpenClaw, and then you're like, shit, it's doing a flush right now. We actually have a funny tweet we can look at. Maybe it's a good time to bring it up because I think this is an interesting time to talk about it. Alex Svavanik, I guess is how you pronounce this guy's name.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as I can bring it up, he had a really interesting tweet here. Can we see this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he said, so he's been working on OpenClaw stuff. He's the CEO or COO of Nansen, which is like a big like data intelligence company. And he said, my claw truncated its context right before paying and ended up buying a totally different product. So it said, oh no, I'm so sorry. The conversation history was truncated and I completely lost the context of what you were actually looking for. So he gave it the credentials to buy something, had this long conversation, probably from first principles, was like, what's the best object I could buy to make my life easier? And goes through this long conversation, figures it out, narrows it down, and then right before he gives the credit card credentials, the bot forgets what the hell he wanted it to buy, and it just ordered him something. Who knows what showed up at his door. I think that's hilarious.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's only until now that we're able to do all this stuff.
Right.
It's taken, like 4 years until we really start seeing AI as a tool that's actually going to transform the world in ways that 4 years ago I was kind of with you. It was a nice tool to have, and if you were doing like some kind of emails, advertising, simple problems, yeah, it was nice to have. You could do several stuff with it. But nowadays, and the things that we're gonna see in the next 6 months, because I cannot think anymore in like 5 years. 1 year away from here is like no way. Because the same happened to me. I started using models like image diffusion, which was before stable diffusion. I think it was the name, image diffusion or something like that. And to make one image, I will have to open my Google Colab, leave it all the night open, just creating the like 250 steps until you will see the image. And nowadays, you just have so many crazy models. Video is next level. I don't know, man. It's wild.
It's crazy.
It's been a while.
Who knows what's going to happen? It's hard to it's such a moving target that it's very hard to predict, and it's very hard to try to nail down a workflow even. Like there's so many things every day that come out that it's like, should I even introduce this tool to my workflow at this point? Because it's just going to change. And actually that's an interesting tweet. One of the ones that I wanted to bring up and kind of kick off the conversation, we kind of naturally got there, was this one from Lex Node where he says, and sorry, I'm a one-man show here, so let me take some time to get this up on the screen.
Good Gabe Shapiro. Yeah.
Yep. He says, I'm increasingly sensing that people who get really good at AI will survive and thrive is likely a cope. It doesn't require much skill. Obviously, it will also require less and less skill. I don't think any edge you have today is a mere AI power user will last long. This is a very hot take. A lot of people had to chime in on this one. And I'm curious, like, for me, I almost have to agree with him in some aspects. Like, yeah, maybe getting really good at AI right now is kind of cope, because if you look at it, everything kind of boils down to like Anthropic or OpenAI, like being able to just kind of like swallow whatever service or product you can create and then just add it to their own model. And then they turn it into, from there, something that's just like the click of a button that any boomer can replicate. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one. I'm curious how you feel.
I think we have to define what does he mean with AI power user, right? Because from the beginning, I agree with him in a way that, yeah, if you're very good at AI, like prompt engineering, you will require like a lot of 3 years ago, but now you just can like ask it, hey, ask me questions about it, and then use your best abilities or whatever to craft me whatever it is. But on the other hand, if you mean AI power user as somebody who is really into the technology and it's always on the frontier, learning what all these tools are appearing, because one of the things that I found with businessmen that I'm talking to is, yeah, they know how to use ChatGPT, use it, like summarize me this PDF and write this email.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, it works for that, but you guys are living in 2022, right? Back when you and myself were testing ChatGPT, they're like 4 years behind. So knowing which tools, what to use them for, I think that gives you a small advantage, right? Like right now, people testing OpenClaw and seeing what are the possibilities of what we can do with this. I think that gives you an edge. It's kind of like back when Microsoft Excel appeared and everybody was like, I don't know, I like to do my spreadsheets by hand and I don't trust the computers. And then like more people started getting into it, and some of them, since they were very advanced, they were able to, use that as an advantage. Like I know Excel, and all these guys are still using spreadsheets by hand. So the productivity I'm gonna have is gonna be X versus that guy. But since AI also is advancing at levels and faster levels than other technologies, I'm not sure how long you're gonna have that advantage on just knowing AI, because there are other advantages and edges that we can talk about. But specifically, if we're talking about like being an AI power user, I think right now you still have some kind of edge. Because let's say right now you know about OpenClaw, most people don't, and you are
Mm-hmm.
able to set up like your whole YouTube studio, and then you can ask it, hey, I want you to just like cut all the scenes that I want to make them viral on YouTube for my shorts, right? That works.
Right. Right.
There's a bunch of people who have no idea that you can do that right now, so that gives you an edge against them.
Mm-hmm.
How long is that gonna like that gap is going to exist? I don't know, because then most people are talking about it. It's on the news. Everybody's talking about AI everywhere you go. Like everywhere you go. I just went to a meeting with businessmen a couple of hours ago, and yeah, they know about it. But when you start digging into it, they really don't know. So that gives you an advantage. In 6 months, back when ChatGPT adds like their open claw on the whole interface, and suddenly you can start integrating everything in your business with it, then the advantage you're gonna have is gonna be smaller, but you will
Yeah.
still have some kind of an advantage. Because, and this ties to another topic that we're probably gonna talk in a couple of moments, but it's that specific knowledge that you have that is gonna be compounded the more you know about AI, but also about your own um, your own niche, your own expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that combination is going to be what really gives you an edge rather than just knowing like AI. Because in the end, if you're a company and you find two guys and you find like, hey, I'm an expert in ChatGPT and I know everything about all these AI tools, I'm a power user. And then you have another guy who is also a power user of all of this, but he's an expert in media content like you are, in creating and producing. So what's gonna be who's gonna win? Who's gonna have that real edge? The guy that
Right.
just knows that Kling exists to make videos, or the guy that is a movie producer who has made several movies before, and now he's using Kling with all that knowledge, and he knows about lighting, he knows about coloring, he knows about like what kind of scenes, what kind of movements we
Yeah.
have to do
He
here and
has the
there.
taste to make
Yeah,
things. And
yeah,
that's like a big word that we're hearing a lot as we travel down this road, is like the taste makers or the people that have good taste. And I do agree, like it's in your scenario there, it's going to be the second guy that wins out every time because he has that domain expertise, and then he can leverage these tools to make himself that much more experienced. You almost like I think what's so fascinating, and I almost kind of benchmark the open claw when it rolled out. I don't know. For me, it's a benchmark of like the frontier of AI, because for the first time ever, I saw holistically the way that these systems can be designed, and it's such an elegant solution. Like it's just markdown files where you're giving it context on who you are or who your client is or what your problem is or who your internal people are and what your processes are, and then you're turning those processes into skills, and then the framework that you build that exists in your mind can be put out into these markdown files, and then that's like what becomes of the bot. And like I think in the near future, I could see, you mentioned like when OpenAI rolls out their open claw version or whatever they end up doing, I could see it being like, hey, we're just going to basically have a bot watch your business work for a week. And then that's going to be all the context we need to like automate a bunch of shit for you. Um, but as of now, it's still this exciting time where like I mean, I'm having so much fun. I don't know about you, and I'm not, we haven't caught up in a while, so I'm actually curious to hear about, what you're working on, but it's so much fun to just think in like first principles again and not have to get lost. I mean, you definitely get lost in the rabbit holes, but I don't get lost in the rabbit hole of like pushing pixels or like looking up technical documentation or trying to fix a bug because I have no idea what the hell is going wrong and I need to look through Stack Overflow to find out what the fuck is wrong with my code, right? I just ask my open claw and it already knows what the problem is. And so it's so much fun and like exciting to like get down to like first principles and really start training yourself to think about like what is the foundational framework that we need to operate here so that this is like scalable across different parts of the business or parts of the problem. And I don't know, maybe I'm not articulating it well, but does that make sense to you?
yeah. It makes a lot of sense, and I think that's gonna be like the next wave of people going back into first principles thinking, into really going into the axioms of what makes a good project. I will speak from my own experience in here. Is like in marketing, if you go around and you will see there's a bunch of stuff that is being sold right now that like the three reels that you have to create in order to position yourself in whatever. And yeah, so all of that is great, but that doesn't work if you don't know like the principles of marketing or principles of coding. And I think that ties again with the like domain knowledge that you have. So the more domain knowledge that you have, if you understand the principles of what you are doing, you're gonna be way, way, way ahead of everybody else. Because sure, you can have like a certain tactic, but once you understand the principles of how something works, which is kind of what Elon does, right? He always goes into first principles thinking mode, and he's looking like, so what do we really need to know, and where do we have to see before just implementing something from the current implementations that exist right now? And I think like that's gonna be a very big advantage, going back into first principles, understanding, in my case, is understanding what makes people buy and
Mm-hmm.
why do these certain people buy this kind of stuff. And knowing all that stuff, it also helps you with the discernment. How you say it? Like discernment.
Discernment. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So knowing about your niche, your market, your domain of knowledge allows you to develop that thing that everybody is calling now taste. But in reality, is knowing the first principles of color theory. If you know that, you become way better than somebody who doesn't really know that and is trying to make a design or a landing page and suddenly doesn't look properly. Or knowing that the copy that ChatGPT gave you is not good enough, right? Because I also think there's something happening. If everybody has access to the same tools, what becomes the difference? What's the differentiator for all of them? It's going to be their knowledge. It's going to be their experience with that. So I know when I see a bad copy that ChatGPT says that it's the best one, I'm like not really sure. Like, hey, can you really check this out? Like the headline, I think it's not very benefit oriented, or for there's not enough curiosity. There's not enough, like you're making lines way too long and people are using mobile phones to read this stuff. They're not gonna read like 5 paragraphs or
Right.
blocks of text. And all of
Yeah.
that is experience that you have from all those years that you can actually see and be like, no, this is not working, change this. That's going to be my
And
edge against all of the guys that are using ChatGPT and asking for create me an offer for my product. My offers are going to be way better because I know what works in my business and what I have done before. I think that's going to be the next level, since everybody has access to the same tools, and you see it with people creating AI art. Not all AI art is good enough for now.
right.
There's like, yeah, you can see and be like, it looks good, but everything is looking good now. So the standard is just higher now because everybody can do the same stuff. So
Yeah.
what makes you better is going to be that experience.
Well, and I think that's kind of like one of the, we'll call it one of the white pills. Everybody's so doom and gloom and black pilled about AI and thinks, the world's over, but one of the ways you could be optimistic about it is like the people that are domain experts that know what they're doing and are above that like minimum, the bare minimum, they can now spend more time refining the skills that make them the top, put them in the upper echelon, right? Like when you talk about even writing a headline, something that's, I mean, it's a trivial thing to do with ChatGPT, but it's really hard to do well, right? It's really hard to like sit there and think like, what is the intrigue in this? Where is this going to be? Who is the audience? What emotion are we trying to convey or pull out of them? And so it's really nice that like you can fire off, you can one shot 100 headlines and be able to even, pick from them and cultivate them that way. And in many circumstances, it saves you the actual labor time to do so that you can spend the time working on, what you're actually good at and what you're there for, right? So I think in many ways that's like a positive thing. I know you mentioned, like AI artwork. And at the top of the show, I talked about you were the CMO at Leonardo AI. Can we talk a little bit about like how you got into that company, how you became the CMO, how you grew that business and what they do? And then the acquisition with Canva is obviously like, congratulations, that's awesome. And then what you've been working on since then would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if your audience knows about our previous run on the whole blockchain stuff. If they don't, just delete this stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, what happened is that I got into Discord server back in the DeFi days that I was, very well versed into all that stuff. And one of the guys was creating this AI startup. He also came from the crypto world. He was doing a game studio and all of that. And they wanted to have traction because back this was around I would say no, October, so before ChatGPT appeared, and but Midjourney was already, I think it was in the version 3. So they already had some groundwork that they had already worked the troops in the ground. They already had a lot of people. I think they had like 2 million users or something in their Discord server. And these guys wanted to have traction. They were like, dude, we're trying to get VCs to invest in this, but they're asking us to have some traction. And they had 100 users on Twitter. And that was pretty much it. So one of the guys messaged me. He asked me, "Hey, I know you work with Astroport and you work with other guys on the DeFi space, and I think you can help us." I'm like, "Sure. What is this project about?" They showed me a little bit. I liked it, and they asked me, "Hey, can you send us like what yeah, like an offer or something? Make a draft, a proposal." And I don't really believe in proposals. I think if people ask you for a proposal, it's just like a nice way to tell you to fuck off. So I said, fuck no, I'm not going to be sending you any proposals. I went to
I don't really
Reddit.
believe in proposals.
Yeah,
Is
and
a
I don't really.
hilarious flex.
Yeah, it never worked for me. I've tried it several times in my past, and it never worked. I will just spend a lot of time creating this big ass document with everything I'm gonna do, and they will be like, "Yeah, well, let me think about it," and just
Yeah.
throw it, right?
Right. Or they
I
take the ideas they like out of it and just go
Yeah,
do it themselves
yeah.
and throw away all the rest.
And
Yeah.
and I said, "Fuck that! I'm gonna show them what I can do." So I went to Reddit. I posted in Stable Diffusion, and I posted in another one like, "Hey, this is the next AI that's gonna." One of the things they had back in the days was character consistency, which was super hard to do. Like
Hmm.
Midjourney couldn't do it. Nobody could do it, but they could. So
So frustrating. Oh my gosh. I
yeah,
forgot that that was even a problem before. So frustrating. Yeah. Remember, you used to have to be like, you used to have to, sorry to cut you off, but you used to have to prompt it like Midjourney to give you four pictures at the same time, like
yeah.
in a collage, just to keep the character consistent. And yeah, anyway, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, and it didn't work. Like Mid Journey, you will have to do a lot of hacks in order to get that character consistency. But these guys wanted that character consistency because they were doing games. They wanted to have assets for their games and reduce the time that it took from ideation to creation of the actual asset. So I went to Reddit, I posted two of the things. They had a waiting list, and suddenly they started getting a lot of people in their waiting list. And I went to Twitter back, or X, I don't remember what it was called back in the days. But, anyways, I went to X and I posted about it, and I put money out of my pocket into advertisement. And I start running ads for them before I was even hired anything.
Yeah.
And it took like 2 hours of my day. And 3 hours later, I got a message from the founder. He's like, "Dude, what the fuck did you do? We're getting a lot of people signing up for Leonardo." I'm like, "Oh, it worked, cool." And he's like, "Yeah, so can you work with us? Like, we want you." I'm like, "Sure." Like, I put my conditions. He was like, "All right, like, give me 2 hours. I'm gonna go with my co-founder and we'll get back to you." I'm like, "Cool. All right, I'll keep running the ads. Don't worry about it." And it was like 30 minutes later, he's like, "When can you start? Like, let's
Dude,
start
that is
tomorrow morning."
that is awesome. That is a fucking awesome story. You just out of your own pocket started running ads for them, and
Yeah.
I mean, come on, like that's why you're so brilliant. That's why we call you Midas, man. You got the Midas touch. Like who else would do that? Who else would think that's like the perfect encapsulation of the meme? Like you can just do things. You know how you see everybody post that? Because instead
Yeah.
of you sitting there and like writing a proposal and like you were just like, no, I'm just gonna do things.
Yeah. It was clear to me. They want more traction. I can get them more traction. I'm not going to give you a proposal of how I'm going to give you traction. I'm just going to go and do it. And if you like the traction you're getting, I'm fucking happy for it. If you hire me or not, anyways, it's gonna be a great story of how I help a startup that didn't even know me to get some leads. That
Right,
was my
right.
my thinking. And yeah, you can do a lot of things. The same, I think it was the same kind of like the story with GPT. I wanted to get access. I tried all the routes possible. I even asked my dad to give me his academic, like ID and be like, "Hey, I'm this researcher," and they didn't even answer me for that. But suddenly I'm like, "Dude, I'm gonna use their freaking technology to get into them," and it worked. And I like to do all that kind of experiments. I think You can do things. Nobody is like untouchable or unreachable. Like freaking internet is you're one tweet away from Elon paying attention to you.
Hmm.
That's so crazy about it. And I think most people don't recognize that you have access to all these people in the world, even if you live in a small village in the middle of the ocean. But if you have internet, man, you can do a lot of stuff. So I started doing all that stuff and they hired me. I got a team, a small team of my friends that I was running with. And we started doing a lot of stuff for Leonardo. A lot of stuff didn't work. We ran one-on-one interviews. We created this waiting list. And if you wanted to skip the waiting list, you will have to join the Discord server. And that started like a flywheel because people wanted access to the newest tool. You know, back in the days, it wasn't like right now that you have all this inventory of tools that you can just like go and select and nobody cares if you're launching something new, they're gonna wait for it. But back in the days it was like Midjourney is the only competition we have. We started creating content, running ads on X as well, Reddit, on Facebook. And funny enough, Reddit was a big source of people that
Mm.
joined the project. They really love it, and we started growing the Discord server. At I would say like the first 3 months, it was kind of slow because we were testing different angles, different places. And once we started having like I think like 20,000 people on the Discord server, I ran the idea with some of the guys like, hey, somebody should create a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel about Leonardo. And you know why? Because you're going to make a lot of money out of this. Because nobody's talking about Leonardo. They're talking about Midjourney, and you can position yourself in that certain niche. And I think like three guys were like, all right, let's do it. They started creating their videos, and we also started trying to reach out all the big influencers that didn't work out. I also think something that helped me out is that before working with Leonardo, I was kind of like an AI influencer. I started writing a lot of threads about other projects, and that brought me a lot of attention and kind of helped me be part of a small circle of AI influencers that right now they're like on the top of the world. You know, Rowan Chung, he has the biggest AI newsletter, Matt Wolf, Barcy, fuck, a lot of guys, and they're doing a lot
What's
of stuff.
your biggest platform you're active on now? Like I know you and I know each other from like Twitter, but you've mentioned in the past like you were pretty big, you had like Facebook groups and stuff. Like what's
Yeah.
your biggest influence platform right now?
Well, I guess it depends on the kind of people that I'm also reaching. I have a 9 million followers Facebook page with my name on it, and but I
9
post
million.
yeah I
Holy
post
shit.
I post motivational quotes, and my
Okay.
demographics are women in Latin America, years old till 60 years old. So it's not the biggest audience I can get for technology stuff. And then I have my X account, which is the one that I run for technology stuff, and it's in English. That's the only account I have in English. The
Hmm.
rest is in Spanish, and that has like 65,000.
Wow. And have you plugged in a lot of automation to this stuff? Because I know like copywriting,
Yeah,
it just
every
like design is like a really tough sort of hurdle to like get to the core of good copy and good design. Like how are you using automation and some of these new tools to like streamline a lot of that work?
So before Open Claw and all these automations, I was doing more of like prompt engineering to create great prompts that will create me great copy. And I will do it manually, basically. I will go to AI Studio, just put the prompt, create the emails, create the copy, the products, the quotes, whatever. And I had already created like my life document. So it had all the information about my business, which is kind of funny because all the stuff that I worked on before, all those MD files, I just like copied them for my open claw. I didn't know it was gonna help me, but I was trying to get some clarity on that. And yeah, I started doing this manually. And now that OpenClaw appeared, I pretty much automated, I would say like 95% of what I do.
Wow.
Every day I get a selection of motivational quotes to post. I just select them. I tell them, yeah, like number one, five, six, seven. It creates them. If I like them, I just say, yeah, schedule them. It will schedule them every 3 hours, and that's it. My emails, I have all my info products, all the stuff that I created before, and it has access to all of that. So I'm like, hey, today we're gonna write an email about that stuff. I need 5 different angles to sell this kind of stuff, and this is the stuff that I use. I have a lot of skills that I ported from my prompts, and
Hmm.
they're not running. The only thing that I do is to just like approve it and kind of like check if the language is kind of like myself, like the way I write, and
Hmm.
if the quotes that I create they don't have any misspellings, and that's it. That's
Yeah.
that will take me fuck. And running ads. I also don't run ads anymore like Claude. Well, Codex runs them for me. I just tell them, hey, check these parameters, and if the CTR is this percentage and we have this frequency of people seeing it, turn it off. If it's making more money,
Is
just
that on Facebook you're running the ads?
yeah.
So is there like a Facebook API that you're connected into then to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
connect
why Codex?
because fucking Claude Code doesn't last anything.
It doesn't what?
It doesn't last. Like you can be working for with Codex for, I don't know, I'm paying the $200 subscription, and it just goes and on and on and on, and I can work on several projects. I tried to do the same on Claude, and it ran out of tokens and credits.
On the
Oh yeah,
Max subscription?
yeah. So fuck it. I just canceled that one. I'm like, no, Codex is way better for me.
So I've seen most people, at least like on Twitter, are saying that they're using Claude Opus 4.6 as kind of like their orchestrator, and then they have it spin up sub agents, and like typically I've seen Codex is used for like the actual like code repos and pushing to GitHub and all that stuff. Um, is that your? But it sounds like your architecture is totally different than that.
Yeah, I only use Codex for everything. I mean, I went from Google, Gemini, from to Opus to GPT, and probably if the next month Opus is way better, I'm gonna switch to the next model. I'm not
Yeah.
running yearly subscriptions anymore because it's kind of absurd.
Oh, because yeah, you're paying for a year and switching back
Yeah,
to yeah. I get that. Well, and but this is another beautiful thing about the open claw and what makes it so revolutionary is like it used to be that all of my projects were siloed in OpenAI's interface and like all of my history and conversations. So if I wanted to get that shit out to move it to a different platform, I had to like manually copy and paste it. But with OpenClaw, and mine is set up, I don't know how yours is set up, but I would love to get into it. But like mine is on a Mac Mini that I bought. It's sitting in a secure location. And it's just nice because it doesn't matter what model I'm using now. Like it's just, it can reference the same markdown files. It knows what its skills are. And I just think that's, as soon as this came out, I was like, oh, this is it. Like I'm doing this. I don't care if this turns into nothing. Like I have to play with this.
I mean, I saw OpenClaw for I think like a month, and my anti-AI, it's not anti-AI, but it's more like, this might be hype again. And I'm tired of jumping into something that's not gonna last, and next month something's better gonna come out. And I wasn't sure about OpenClaw. I tried it, and once OpenAI hired Peter, I was like, dude, this is the next big thing. Everybody's gonna copy their OpenClaw. They're gonna launch their OpenClaw, and the original project is just gonna go to the fucking moon because they have now like real money backing all this development.
Right. Right. And the
And yeah,
updates are insane, right? Like every day they're
every
pushing out
day,
a new
yeah.
update.
And then you
Every
see
day.
like NanoClaw, PicoClaw, and all those alternatives that are
Mhm.
appearing. I haven't tested them out because I don't have time for that. But I think like that once you start seeing a lot of copycats appearing, this is gonna be the next big wave. Like
Yeah.
he captured the zeitgeist, the attention of the moment. Everybody started like, wow, you can actually do something. Because I don't know if you tried to run an agent before OpenClaw.
I don't think I did, to be honest. I was using mostly before OpenClaw, I was mostly using GPT projects, and then I had just started to like get into Claude. So I had done a cursor. So I had done cursor, which was basically It was just like an LLM window plugged into VS Code. But the problem with it was like as soon as I would try to do something, there would be like 9,000 dependency issues, and I was like, I'm not this technical. Like I don't know, I can't figure this out. I don't know. This is a pain in the ass. So that fizzled because I just wasn't I wasn't like in a programming role anyway, so it didn't really matter. But then the OpenClaw stuff came around, and I was like, this is my speed. Like I'm just technical enough to like figure this out. I could have like the OpenAI window next to me. It's funny because when I first started my OpenClaw, I OAuthed into my GPT subscription. And I said, I want to set this up so that it is like the safest thing possible. But that really just castrated it and made it like a piece of shit. Like I couldn't do anything. And then I was like, all right, this sucks. I'm going to do this again. So then I did it again. I said, I want to take all the guardrails off, but I was still using like an API key for GPT for OpenAI. And it still was like, and then finally I was like, you know what? All right, I'm just going to go back to Claude. I haven't used it in a while. I'll throw the $25 a month. I just want to see this thing work. And that's like when it finally clicked. And I was like, oh, okay, this is legit now. So I'll be curious to see, like, as like I imagine Peter's, is it Steinberger? I imagine as they start to grow and build out more features, they're gonna start to like mesh more with OpenAI now that OpenAI is like their main backer. So I'll be curious to see, when the next model for OpenAI comes out. Because right now I'm paying for the Claude Max, which is like my main subscription, and then whenever I need, I always call it like the council. I'll be like, all right, we need to think through this problem. Go and summon the AI council. And like, he just knows the councils, Grok, Gemini, GPT, and Perplexity. And he just like, he gives me the feedback from all three or all four or whatever. But I could see, a month from now, maybe Opus is push back into the council, into the bullpen, and my starting pitcher becomes OpenAI again at that point.
I mean, they just launched GPT 5.4 a couple of hours ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you gotta try it.
Have you used it yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I was just preparing for our chat here, and I just saw that it has a 1 million context window, so that's way better because the other one had a 5.3. It was 254K.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy.
So yeah, like four times more context window.
I think this becomes interesting too because, and maybe you've noticed this, but as I continue to use my OpenClaw, and this is like something that we've seen a lot of the people talk about, is some of this like bloat that you see online. And I could share a tweet here from, this is DB Crypto. Everything always has to go back to crypto for some reason. Hold on one second.
I think it's kind of like the same audience,
It must be, yeah. A lot of overlay. But he said your AI agent is a digital hoarder and how to fix it. Everyone's talking about building AI agents. Almost nobody's talking about maintaining them. After running a dozen daily cron jobs and a fleet of sub agents for nearly 2 weeks, I hit a wall. Digital bloat. My agents were hoarding logs, redundant research, and legacy data, burning tokens, reading their own garbage, hallucinating based on outdated context. And, this is just a bit of a guide of like, trashing things over deleting them, the protected whitelist, the janitor protocol and audit trail. A pretty interesting tweet on kind of this problem of like, the more you use it, the more you realize like you need to start keeping things organized. And so I guess, I'd love to bounce off of you. Like, what are you doing to kind of like prune the data or keep it clean, keep things sanitized? Because I think as the context windows begin to expand on this thing, that's great and that's wonderful for when my tasks are very linear and like I need all that context. But I think that can also create like crazy context bloat where like my agent has 9 different projects running at the same time and I'm at the tail end of a workday, just trying to send an email response to somebody, and for some reason it knows everything I've done all day. Like, how do you personally manage this kind of thing?
Well, I don't even clean my computer, but yeah. What I'm doing right now is that I'm starting running separate agents for different stuff or sub agents in a way. So yeah, I have my dev, which has its own folder and everything. The main one, which is the one that I talk with, and I'm not very into the whole memory kind of things. So I think that's also helping me in a way, or I don't know. I don't use a lot of the memory stuff.
Hmm.
I didn't even use that with ChatGPT. I don't really like, saving all my personal information and that kind of stuff. But I do see that whenever I'm working on a project and coding it with like vibe coding it, it creates a lot of bullshit files in there. And I just logged into my server and start seeing like, hey, why do we have like 10 different folders called mission control? All of them are mission control. What the hell?
Right, right. And does he respond like, "Oh, don't worry, like I know exactly what all that stuff's for," and then you're like, "Are you sure?"
I haven't even asked it like, hey, why did you create so many folders of this stuff? Now, the memories, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do in the next couple of months, if they're gonna be affecting my workflow or not. The thing that I'm doing is that right now the agent that was creating everything, I just separated a lot of the stuff, all the actions. So now I have a content agent that he creates the quotes, the emails, products, and whatever. He manages the apps and everything. Then we have my friend Chad. He's the one that's coding all day long.
Hmm.
And yeah, so my bot is pretty much, it's not unusable. I mean, it's like not using all the memories and all that kind of stuff that I was doing before. I think that's gonna help me with the memory and the management of the, yeah, memories and sessions and all of that. But I haven't done any of the pruning that
Yeah.
this guy is talking about. I'm also very high risk tolerant. So yeah, I run it with everything going on. It's like, I don't worry
Like a
about it.
true artist. Like a true
Yeah,
artist.
I mean, if it deletes my repos or if it leaks my keys or whatever, it's like I don't give a fuck, man. Like I will just change it. It's not that worrisome for me. I do
Yeah.
understand people that are running this in like large productions and yeah. And I think this ties back to the first thing we spoke about. There's gonna be probably new roles that appear, like the guy who's gonna clean up your open claw so it's running fine, or
Mm.
probably they're gonna create a package in the next month that's gonna solve that. So I'm not that worried about it. Something that's happening is that I'm in an open claw group with some friends. I should invite you as well. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
definitely. I'd be
invite
down.
you, and it's funny because one day something comes out of in the news and I'm like, yeah, this is super interesting, like the ANE for the Macs, that you're now able to train models in your Mac. And it just appeared and I asked Claude or Codex, like, hey, dude, like, how can we use this in my computer? And he just told me like, dude, you're not that smart to do all this stuff. Like, leave it to the guys that really know what the fuck they're doing. I'm like, okay, okay, all right. And the next day, and somebody just implemented something so you can just train your like a small model into your memories with your memories and everything using that same technique that they just discovered one day before.
Yeah.
It's something that you also mentioned at the beginning is that, should I be like implementing all these tools right now, or should I just wait? Because maybe somebody's gonna implement this in the next couple of days. I try to do like a Kanban board where I will assign the task for my agent, and I spent, I think, like 3 days working on that. So if I added any task, it will just continue working on that, and it kind of worked in a way. But then yesterday, some guy just launched Paperclip, and it kind of does exactly that in way better than what I was doing. So I'm
Yeah.
like, dude,
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for people to just create the stuff that I need.
Right.
Next,
Right.
like 3 days later, if I think about something, 3 days later, I will find it. Either somebody created it because they were thinking about it, or it was already created and I just had to find it. That's it. It's
I
fucking
get
crazy.
I get anxious like scrolling the X timeline. Like I'll go to bed and like start scrolling and I'm like, "Oh shit, like I'm not keeping up. Like this is just too crazy. Like everybody's building, you know." And some of it is bullshit, no doubt. Some of it's bullshit.
Dude,
but it gives.
if you see my bookmarks, I'm just bookmarking everything in here of OpenClaw. It's like I open my X, I go read one tweet, two tweets, bookmark. Next one, bookmark. Yeah, I'm gonna read it later. I'm gonna send it to my OpenClaw. I don't have time anymore. It's like this shit is going so fast, so
You know,
freaking fast.
you know what I thought of was there should be like a coin market cap, but for just AI projects. Just a way to see like what's trending on X and has like the most positive sentiment around it. Not for like, financial gain purposes, but just so I can see like what is legit. Maybe, but somebody else is going to build that in the next 48 hours, I bet.
You bet that. So in the group, I was like, guys, are you realizing that we're like materializing everything that we're talking in here? So somebody's like, dude, I really want to have something that whenever I finish my codex limits, I can automatically go to Claude. And we start talking about it. It's gonna be a little bit hard to create that. There's so many things, blah blah blah. Next day, somebody just copies a link and hey, dude, this is what you were looking for, right? So yeah, somebody's gonna make like a coin market cap for OpenClaw. I mean, you can do it. It's a great idea.
Yeah, but well, we'll see. I'm gonna wait a week, and if nobody does it, then maybe I'll write a spec for it.
You can
I'll ask Claude to one shot it. Yeah, you could just do things. Exactly. Yeah. Well, Midas, it's been an hour already, man, and this is a lot of fun. I feel like we could go on for a long time. I love picking your brain. Like I said, you, in my regards, like were ahead of the curve on a lot of this AI stuff, especially when I was like, this stuff's garbage. I know you had joined Leonardo at that point, and you were like bull posting a lot of the AI stuff. So in many regards, I look up to you as a pioneer in the space, and I'm happy that we stay in touch. And I'd love to do this again, of course. Is there any closing remarks or anything that you want to leave the people with so that they can keep up with you or find what you're working on or any cool stuff like that?
Yeah, you can find me on X, breath. How you say it? Underslash?
Underscore.
Underscore. Yeah. So again, yeah, you can find me on X. It's at breath_mirror.
Breath Mirror on X. That's the best place to find him. And yeah, that's it, man. This is Permanent Underclass. We're gonna have you on again next time. Maybe Clyde can actually join us. He's in Hong Kong, but he's half Chilean, so he speaks Spanish, and maybe we'll do like a Spanish episode special. Maybe I'll come down to Mexico City. We'll do one in person. That'd be cool.
All right. Yeah, mi casa es tu casa.
Thank you. I appreciate that, sir.
You understood that. All right.
Yeah. Claro,
Awesome.
claro.
Claro. All right, Evan. Man, thank you very much for having me here, and thanks for your audience. I'm going to be sharing this everywhere as well.
Oh, yeah, man. Hey, maybe you could do for me in our podcast what you did for Leonardo back in the day and just pump it on all channels for us.
I'm going to pump it up.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.